Tim, you've guided us through the day. You developed the narrative of what we were trying to do today from the very beginning.
I like, by the way, the notion of the emphasis on values, because I mean, if you scramble through hedges, as I tried to say, and your values aren't clear, then you're going to end up in some pretty extraordinary places and not meet the needs of kids. And I'm sorry, but your comment about music and sport made me remember a head. It's 30 years ago, but he had this amazing capacity for getting brilliant teachers. I said, Joe, how do you do it? And he said, oh, it's very simple. When I get the application forms, if they don't play sport or use a musical instrument, doesn't matter what they're doing, I don't appoint them. It's amazing, isn't it? Because you came in with exactly that point of view. I thought we learned a great deal from the students, and I hope we don't forget that, because I thought some of the ideas were really important, and it is the Cinderella of school improvement, because we're not quite sure about how to do that. I thought it was terrific. And incidentally, Learning Away is represented here, and the Hamlin Trust, the Hamlin Foundation, has funded a thing over the last 2 or 3 years, well, 5 years actually, into the value of residential education, and has had it researched. And I've got to say, it isn't just thought to be a good thing. The research has produced data which says it does make a difference, and it makes a pretty important difference. So when you were commenting, and I have to say, you better take your young people back with you, because I kept talking to heads who said, do you think you could transfer those students to our school? Because they'd be wonderful to have. Yeah, okay. They're wonderful though. And by the way, language is so important, isn't it? I always get worried when people talk about these children. You know, they're our children. I always remember saying to one head, who shall be nameless, after he'd been complaining for ages, I said, terribly sorry, but they're the only children I've got for you. And it must be in the mindset of what we're going to achieve. I want to make one offer, and that is through you. I've got some interesting quotes on what it means to be a teacher. I referred to the Gino, and a number of people came up and said, yeah, I know that quote. I've got quite a few quotes about what it means to be a teacher, and I'm going to send them to David so he can send them out. And if you wanted to put them sequentially every half term, one into the staff room when nobody's around, it won't have to do their morale good when they're reminded of what it is that the difference that your staff make to children's lives. And that's the difference, of course, between ourselves and the politicians. The politicians think of all that list you had. That's their legacy. And that isn't our legacy at all. It's the lives of the children that they're going to lead. And we have no idea, actually, where it all ends. Just occasionally we do, and it brings a tear to our eye. And occasionally, my goodness me, I didn't know that happened. But that is what we're doing it for, and we have no idea. There may be Michelangelos, there may be Shakespeare's, there may be social workers, there are all sorts of people in our schools, and all we can do is make it possible for them to take things forward. So I just wanted to end with that quote, which I'm sure you're familiar with, from Shaw, because that's what I still feel. We will change policy, and notwithstanding your worry at the end, I thought, well, that reminds me of the age of trust and optimism. We were actually left to get on with things. And it wasn't a hopeless era, but it was nowhere near as good as this one. Every era has its, and the possibilities now are enormous. But I do think Shaw got it really right when he, in one of the plays, he said, this is the true joy in life, being used for a purpose, recognised by yourself as a mighty one, being part of a great enterprise. This is true of every school I can think of in this room. You know, I want to be thoroughly used up when I die, for the more I work, the more I live. Life is no brief candle to me. It's a sort of splendid torch which I've got hold of for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations. The reason you like your teachers in Chiswick and Swavesey, the reason that you like them is because they've got that sense. They are making the candle burn as brightly as possible, and they are handing it on to you, and you're going to make the world a better place too. So that's why we do it. We will have our successes, and occasionally we will have our failures. Of course we will. But whole education, finding allies at this sort of time is hugely important. I'm optimistic we are on the edge of a new age. We need to push partnerships like mad. We need really to confront our politicians with some of their failings, because really that agenda is a nonsense. To expect all that to happen in a very short time. And you will make sure it won't happen in a damaging way, of course you will. And you'll comply in the way that you have to, but deep down, you'll be finding the means of unlocking the minds and opening the shut chambers of the hearts of the pupils who are in your schools. And whole education is devoted to that. So thank you for letting me glimpse the day and the magic you weave. And it's been a great day for me. I've learned a great deal. Thank you, David.
Number one on my 10 rules of public speaking is never follow Tim Brighouse. Toby, thank you for reminding us about Socrates saying that if you write something down, you're more likely to forget it. I've reached a stage of life where if I don't write it down, I definitely will forget it. So I want to just do the impossible, really, and just try and draw the day together. And as these people who have just spoken have very fluently said, there's so many different things, so many inspiring things that we've heard during the course of the day, and we should be putting these into action over the next few years when the challenges that we've had, the kind of lists that Toby had up for us, you can see the growing number of things to implement, will be done in an era of reducing school funding, which will make a lot of those things, a lot of other challenges, so much more difficult. And I reflect on something that Steve Mumby I heard say more than once, which is, you may recall him saying it too, when the water hole shrinks, the animals start to look at each other differently. And what we have got to be determined to do as a whole education network is to be sufficiently confident in our values, confident in our ideas, confident in the importance of giving every child an entitlement to a whole education, that we are determined to go on being an important, like-minded, value-driven national network. So my appeal to you is, as was said earlier today, I think it was David Carter, put your wagons in a circle. Support each other through the next few years. I firmly, firmly believe that whole education will win the argument, and we in this room are the people who will do that and who will implement it in our schools and give children, as a result, a much, much better, more valuable education. So let me end then by, on your behalf, thanking all of today's speakers and indeed the development partners who have been with us all day, and especially to thank David Crossley and Tim Brighouse, who have, between them, inspired us through what's been a great day. And thank you all too. Thank you.